Happy Friday! Here we are again, Glacier Guides Montana Raft, bringing you the weekly rivers, roads, and trails report for conditions in and around Glacier National Park. Today is Friday, June 29th, and we've got the latest that's happening in and around the park. The rivers, Middle Fork of the Flathead River is running at about 6,000 CFS today. That's 4.4 feet. Median flows are about 6,400, so we're right on track for lots of fun whitewater in the upcoming month here. The North Fork of the Flathead is a little bit low. Median flows are also about 6,400 this time of year. The North Fork is actually running at 4,400 CFS today, which is about 4.5 feet. But the water has really cleared up, and these flows do mean very peaceful scenic floats. They mean splashy and fun whitewater trips and great fishing here. Summer is definitely in full swing on the water. However, we do want to send out a gentle reminder to everyone about the hole/wave that's right above Glacier Rim. You really need to stay river left there. We've heard a lot of reports of boats being flipped there in the last couple weeks, and you need to have your PFDs on all the time, but especially through that section of the North Fork. If you need a copy of the Three Forks of the Flathead Wild and Scenic Float Guide, we do have them in the office, and we think that everyone should own, read, and understand a copy of that guide before your self-guided trips on the North and Middle Forks and South Fork too of the Flathead River. That guide has actually recently been updated by the Forest Service to reflect this ongoing hazard at Glacier Rim, where you should again stay river left. So that's what we can tell you there. Moving on to fishing, we're having a lot of fun fishing right now. I talked to 3 of our fishing guides this morning. Thanks, Colin and Ted and Kevin. And they all told me that the fishing is really going great because the water clarity is improving now that runoff is pretty much over with. We're looking to small dry flies in the morning and then watching for bigger dries as the day goes on. I'm hearing that golden stoneflies and parachutes are working great, as are PMDs and small tan caddies. Fish are definitely holding in the slowest water that you can find, but it's good and it's only going to get better. And if your fly's not in the water, you can't catch fish. So call us and we'll get you set up with some fishing reservations. Moving on to the roads, the Going to the Sun Road is open. Happy days are here again. We're all thrilled, and I've been up to the pass twice. It's absolutely gorgeous. I recommend you get up and get going early if you'd like to see Logan Pass here in the early season. Every time I've been, I've seen lots of people skiing and having quite a bit of fun up at the pass. So that is awesome. There's really nothing else of interest to report about the roads. The park's Twitter feed continues to be a great source of information about road restrictions, especially up in the North Fork area. And of course, parking lot restrictions too, or not so much restrictions, but just information on what parking lots are already filled as the day goes on. So definitely check out the park's Twitter feed. Moving on to the trails, in Belly River Country, there's some new information from Mokawanis Junction up towards gorgeous Stony Indian Pass. There's patchy snow from the top of the Atsina Bridge, or the Atsina Switchbacks rather, up to Stony Indian Pass. Moving over to Goat Haunt, we can report to you via the Park Service that the Kootenai Lakes Campground, again to that Stony Indian Pass area, the trail is clear of downfall to about 1/8 of a mile within the junction. So things are melting out. The high country is starting to open up. Goat Haunt Ranger Station to Lake Janet, the trail has been cleared of downfall as of this week. The Waterton Lake Trail to the international boundary, the suspension bridge is now in place, so that's exciting news. But the Waterton Lake Shore Trail from Goat Haunt to Waterton remains closed, as it has been so far this summer. And there are some changes again to that Goat Haunt border crossing station that you can read about in the print version of the Rivers, Roads, and Trails email. The other thing to report in that area is that north boundary trail north of Goat Haunt also remains closed, as it has been this year due to dangerous conditions left over from that Keno fire in Waterton last year. Okay, Lake McDonald, our backyard, Lincoln Creek. There's still a carcass by the Lincoln Creek cabin, so that trail is closed. And the lower Howell Lake Trail to Howell Ridge Trail, that remains closed as well for sensitive resource protection after our own Sprague fire last year. So, Mini Glacier, always a favorite. The Cracker Lake Trail is posted for bear frequenting, but it's not closed. Park Service is reporting that the first 2 miles of the trail tread from the hotel is really muddy and slippery. There's a swiftwater crossing at the footbridge, and you will need to ford there. And then there's a snow bridge about 5 miles up the trail, which would be about a mile from the Cracker Lake campground. It's coming out really, really quickly on the melt. And there's about 2 feet from the snow surface and the running water below. So you have to cross over that to get to the campground. So please be very careful if you're doing that. The Grinnell Glacier Trail from Lake Josephine to the glacier is also posted for bear frequenting. The trail from Cataract Bridge to Grinnell Lake and continuing onto the Feather Plume Junction with Pegan Pass, that is closed due to flooding as it was last week. Imagine that'll be clearing up here pretty soon. The Upper Piegan Pass Trail is intermittently snow-covered from Feather Plume Falls Junction to the Cataract Creek crossing just before Morning Eagle Falls. Apparently some route finding is necessary, but the snow bridge over the creek crossing was, at last report, fairly substantial. You always want to exercise extreme caution on snow bridges, of course. The trail is 100% snow-covered from Cataract Creek up to Morning Eagle Falls, and the Park Service was recommending traction devices and ice axes if you were going to venture beyond Morning Eagle Falls. The other big news out of Mini Glacier this week is that the trail from Poya Lake to Red Gap Pass is clear. So that's kind of the first pass we really heard of being accessible, which is exciting. The Poya Lake area is a less used area of the park, and there's really quite a bit of solitude to be found at that beautiful lake there. So, okay, St. Mary and Logan Pass, the Highline Trail, we're all dying to go, I know, but it does remain closed, as it always is this time of year, from the Logan Pass parking lot to Granite Park Chalet due to very hazardous snow conditions. Park Service is still reporting that they think the handrails at Rimrock are going to go in later this week, so possibly we'll be seeing that Highline Trail open pretty soon. We can all keep our fingers crossed. So, looking at the head of Red Eagle Lake up towards Triple Divide Pass, there's about 150 downed trees on that trail. There are no hazardous water crossings, but there are snow hazards after you get about 5 miles down that trail on the way to the pass, and then the trail is 50% covered with snow to Triple Divide Pass, and route finding is required through some sections. Crampons and ice axes are strongly recommended by the Park Service. The ability to self-arrest is required through that section. So, especially with this upcoming 4th of July week, let's please keep safety at the forefront of our minds. Looking at Sunrift Gorge to Sahi Pass, more pass news to report here. There's patchy snow on the first mile of this trail past Sunrift Gorge. There's steep and very consequential snowfields that require snow travel skills and ice axes. The upper section up towards Sahi Pass is 90 to 100% snow covered, route finding skills, all that. So we're getting there, but we're not quite there. So still enjoy things at more of the lower to mid elevations before tackling those passes, especially if you're not skilled in backcountry snow travel and self-arrest skills and that sort of thing. Looking at the Two Medicine and Cut Bank areas, there's quite a bit of new information from the Park Service about the Dawson-Pitamakan area in particular. So let's talk about that for a minute. If you're at No Name Lake heading towards Dawson Pass, the Park Service is reporting that there are 2 trees down. There's a few snowfields remaining towards that pass, one that's pretty steep and exposed. Ice axe, self-arrest skills, again, are apparently the words of the day for this River Roads and Trails report. You need them if you're going up high still in the park. If you're making it to Dawson Pass, National Park Service is reporting that it has viewed the trail from Pitamakan that leads from Dawson, and that it looks clear of snow and it's in condition, but of course we don't have firsthand knowledge of that, and keep safety first and send us a report and some pictures if you do go traverse that section of the trail. We'd love to see what it looks like. If you're on the Pitamakan Trail headed towards Old Man Lake, you should know that there's a bridge out, the bridge that is just prior to the Dry Fork Junction, which is a little over 2 miles from the Two Medicine Auto Campground. One of the pylons that was holding it up washed away with this recent rainfall that we've had, especially on the east side of the park. And the stream crossing is currently deep. It's about knee deep, and I think that's probably knee deep on about a 6-foot-tall person. So be careful. It's 20 or 30 feet across. Take great care always along moving water in Glacier National Park. If you do make it to Old Man Lake and you're thinking about continuing on to Pitamakan Pass, you are going to encounter some snow hazards, quite a few short, steep snowfields. Again, crampons, ice axes are recommended, and the ability to self-arrest is required. If you're in the Cut Bank drainage headed to the Morning Star Campground, the trail does have a snow patch about a mile from Morning Star Lake, but is otherwise completely free of snow. There's some trees down in the last mile to the lake, which might make things a little difficult if you've got a backpack on. The trail from the foot of Morning Star Lake to the campground, more trees there, and it's about 10% snow covered at the Morning Star Campground. So if you're going to Morning Star and thinking about carrying on to Pitamakan Pass, keeping our focus on this area, again, route finding skills are required. The first half mile of that trail is clear of snow, and then it becomes 50 to 100% snow covered after that. If you're at Medicine Grizzly Junction, headed to Triple Divide Pass, moving over to a different pass, there's snow hazards, ice axe, crampons, self-arrest. We're definitely seeing a very clear pattern of, although we can access the passes, if we have snow country travel skills, we need to be very careful. And for those of us who don't have those skills, we need to be patient. So, the Highway 2 corridor, Harrison Lake, remains closed due to a carcass on the trail. We do have a little update in the summit, kind of Autumn Creek area there off of Highway 2. If you're on the trail that's the Firebrand Pass Junction, the Midvale Creek area, that water crossing at Railroad Creek that we said last week had sustained some damage. Hikers must now cross the flowing creek on half of the former bridge, and the remaining planed log is 25 feet long, which is pretty darn good ways, 8 to 12 inches wide, and several feet above the water. So especially if you don't have good balance skills, you need to be very, very careful crossing that very swift water hazard there. Might be a good idea just to wait until that's repaired. Looking at Firebrand Pass, the trail is clear about a mile past the Midvale Creek Trail Junction. There are some snowfields. Some of them are pretty steep. Again, self-arrest equipment, poles are highly recommended. From Firebrand Pass Trail to Ole Lake, there's about 20 trees down, and there's a water crossing that's about a foot deep and 10 feet across. So just be careful out there on the snow and on the water. We're not quite to high summer yet. Nothing really of interest to report out of the North Fork. It doesn't look like the Park Service has updated much of the information on that trail, so I would say there's still plenty of trees down in that area, and the snow is on the melt. And maybe we'll know more next week. If you know more, let us know. You can always send your trail intel to Courtney at glacierguides.com, and I'd love to put it into our next written report. Looking at backpacking, the Backcountry Permit Office has been very popular from what I hear. 50% of the permits are given out at the advanced system in the winter, and the other 50% are available in a walk-in basis to the public. So if you're going backpacking, I'd say get up and go early. Just a reminder, Snyder and Lincoln Lake backcountry campgrounds are both closed this summer. Looking at the front country campgrounds, Cut Bank is in preventive status as it always is. Quartz and logging remain closed. Everything else is open and filling early. I won't read off all of the times, but on Wednesday, for example, the St. Mary campground was filled at 7:12 a.m. and the Mini Glacier campground at 9:20 a.m. And you can look on the Park Service's webpage at the front country campgrounds every day and see when they filled the day before, and that's a really helpful tool in planning your weekend camping vacation in the park. Fire danger remains low, and we'd just love to see your trail conditions, so send them on. Looking at the weather, we've got some rain in the forecast for the weekend. Always need layers in June. We always need layers in Montana all of the year, really, but definitely rain jackets and sturdy soled boots this time of year. I love my hiking poles. They give me great stability in the mud. Recommend them to everyone regardless of age. You can get an in-depth look at the weather in our written Rivers, Roads, and Trails report. Just a friendly reminder from us at Glacier Guides and Montana Raft, we love to see you out on the rivers, roads, and trails all around, but please use extreme caution as we are definitely still emerging in the high country and on the rivers into those more mellow times in July. Wear your PFDs, look after your friends, leave a plan if you're going somewhere, especially by yourself. Let someone know where you're going. We want everyone to have an awesome 4th of July weekend and stay safe. We are offering free rafting for active military and veterans. Just give the office a call to ask about that if you'd like to go with us on July 4th or July 5th, 406-387-5555. Otherwise, we'll see you next week for the Rivers, Roads, and Trails report. Have a great weekend.